Hickok 45 here. Yes, welcome to the Hickok 45 Talks channel. That's where you are. I believe it. You saw from the title, I guess. Does bad grammar make you an evil person? I have actually had, as I started asking for, topics to talk about on the Talks channel. Not that I need a lot, because I can just make up stuff, right? But I've had a lot of good suggestions. One of them, I don't know whether the guy was joking or not. I think he was serious. Said, yeah, talk about, what do you say? We want some good grammar talks or something like that. Because I've done some of that, in the past here and there. Some of you folks have been around a while, seen some of those crazy things. And I thought, well, why not? Why not? Okay, because I am going to take license on this channel, and otherwise, why do it? Talk about anything I want to. I would say most of the talks will be something firearms related, and many may not be. Okay? In the way I'm going to justify that is, I'm going to set all these videos so that you have a choice as to whether to watch it or not. That watching will not be mandatory. That's pretty good news, isn't it? Yeah, really. So whatever it's about. So anyway, many of you know that I was an English teacher. Man, hard to believe, isn't it? And I enjoyed it, and I had a lot of fun. Taught middle school most of the years, high school part of the time. Every grade level, literally everything from 6, mostly middle school, 7 on up through seniors, at some point, at some place. And I typically enjoyed the middle school the most. I'm really crazy, right? Most of you wouldn't teach middle school anything if they paid you $500,000 a year, right? You just wouldn't even, not interested. But I enjoyed it. I was just about as crazy as they were, and so it was kind of fun. When it comes to grammar, all right. I've never really been a grammar Nazi. My students might have thought I was, but I really have not, because I was kind of an average student. I just fell in love with literature when I got into college and majored in that and enjoyed it. Then I got to where I kind of enjoyed the grammar, because I had some weaknesses there myself. And the more I learned about anything, it just became pretty interesting to me. And it was a big part of teaching, middle school especially, and at any level. You're teaching English, just in different, forms and different amount of emphasis. But believe me, hopefully I try to make sure I'm never judging people on anything, much less, how they speak or grammar, all that kind of thing. It's not the most important thing in the world. The very best people I know use probably more, just average grammar. Make mistakes, don't make mistakes. I make some mistakes, and I usually am aware of it. I say things kind of intentionally. I know if I'm using informal grammar and that sort of thing, and I do it intentionally. There's things, you can talk about split infinitives, anything you want. There's lots of different issues that a textbook will tell you not to split infinitives well. I reserve the right to loudly split infinitives, get it, anytime I want, because I think that's a silly rule. But anyway, and some things kind of go by the wayside and the earlier thinking was that's wrong, and then it falls out of fashion as people begin to violate it, extensively, and it's okay to say that now or write that even, but you got formal English and you've got informal English, slang, you got a lot of different levels. My point has been, I guess, in terms of just generally using good grammar, it's been the obvious things. And in terms of my students, I used to tell them all the time, like, nobody's going to notice. Most of the people in the room, even if you're, I don't know, you're a software engineer, wherever you are, you're around a lot of educated people. And if you misuse the verb lay or lie, hardly anybody in the room is going to know, really. They couldn't explain it to you. If you use it correctly, they'll think you're using it incorrectly. Some of the really difficult verbs that people just use wrong, wrongly all the time. But there are some verbs, especially the past participle. Okay, one of my pet peeves. the past participle is kind of drifting away with some verbs, at least in terms of knowledge. And I don't think it's an issue where the language is evolving. It's one of those things where it's still just wrong. For example, I drove to work yesterday, and I should have drove faster or something. Well, you'll hear people say that. No, I'm sorry, that's not just okay now to say I should have drove. It's I should have driven. So it's that past participle form of the verb, the one that takes a helping verb. Okay, let's get really basic here. And I tell you, if you have trouble with these things and sometimes you suspect, I think I might be using that wrong, or I hear other people say that, I wonder which is right, or whatever. Look it up online. You don't need a grammar book, but if you're using a grammar book, just turn to irregular verbs or troublesome verbs. There'll be a list of the most commonly misused irregular verbs. Most of those are considered irregular verbs. And they'll give the 3 principal parts or 4 principal parts of those verbs, and you can just see it right there. Oh, okay, there is such a word as driven or eaten. I think some people don't even know there's such a word as eaten. It's like, yeah, I should have ate that. Well, you're not going to Hades for saying I should have ate that, but I should have eaten that. It's just clearly wrong. Okay, it's not just. I don't even consider that slang. It's one thing to use slang, like extremely informal English and all that sort of thing, but it's really not just slang. You have actually chosen the wrong form of that verb. So what I would do in class, I was going to give some examples. I would have the students write sentences, just like punishment. Right? I will not chew gum in class. Well, I would have them write more constructive sentences as an assignment when we're studying things like this. And I say, just use like that. Use ride in a sentence, and use ride and ridden in the same sentence or something. Okay, or in 2 different sentences, whatever. And just correctly, preferably. And then they bring them to class, and it wasn't just busy work. It's reinforcement. And then we would read them. I'd go down the row, or bounce around and go down the row too often, because that leaves the people in row over there thinking, okay, I can relax for a while and think about something else. You bounce around. But I would say, Martha, read me yours with ride, or with swim, and she would read it. I say, yeah, good. Read that again. Everybody hear that. What did she say, Bill? Read that. And just verbalize. Swim and swum, and swam. And yeah, I swam in the pool yesterday, but I should not have swum so much. And that hits people's ear wrong sometimes if they've never heard anybody say swum, or when they did hear someone say swum, they thought it might have been incorrect. So I thought that was useful just to write it, read it aloud, everybody hear it, and read it again, and just hear that. So swim's an example. I swam yesterday. I should have swum on Monday too, or I should not have swum so much. Drink, another one. You need to hear those. That's why I say just see them in a list even. For a lot of people, even realizing that there is this swum is correct, or drunk is correct, even outside of talking about somebody intoxicated. Talking about the verb, like if your little brother at breakfast says, I've drunk my juice, Mom, that's correct. I've drunk my juice. Or drink your milk, Billy. I've drunk it, Mom. I have drunk it, Mom. I drank it, which means I have drunk it. I have drunk that juice before. When you got the helping verb and everything, it's drunk. It's not I've drank my juice. That's not slang. That's just wrong. Now, if you're a grammarian and you've got 14 PhDs in linguistics and grammar, all that kind of thing, well, correct me if you think I'm wrong on something now. I might be behind the times, but those are just wrong. So that's what I do. I think I even wrote something down here just as an exercise. Now, and the reason I bring these up is that for a lot of people, the earth isn't going to stop revolving if you use the wrong form of drink or something. But if you are, in your career, or you're going to be interviewing for jobs, you're in a professional position of some sort, and you're speaking with people and you're writing, follow-ups and whatever you're doing, reports. You want to kind of get this stuff right. It's not that hard, and there's a finite number of those verbs that give people problems. That's the thing. I mean, really, there's a list of, I had them on the bulletin board in my classroom. About 20 troublesome verbs with all the principal parts of it, and it's just, and they would go over that occasionally, just because those are the things that shout at people sometimes. Like if you know something, and a lot of people do, if you're fairly well educated, you know that the past participle of drink is drunk, or that swum is correct, and things like that. You know that. And a lot of people know that. Then there's somebody in your department, and they're writing a memo, or they're writing an email, or they're in a meeting and talking about that. Oh yeah, I went swimming yesterday. Man, I shouldn't have swam so much, or whatever it is. I shouldn't have drank so much. It's okay, you don't condemn them, you don't send them to HR or anything, but it registers with people. It does. Now, you may not care what they think about the way you speak. It may not matter what they think, but it's noticed. That's the key thing. It is noticed by people who do know the difference. So anyway, it's those key things like that, those 20 or whatever troublesome verbs that a lot of people get wrong, that kind of set you apart. You can be careful about that, is my recommendation. Now, anywhere else, you're talking about the whole world of English language, then of course, how many million words do we have that we could use incorrectly? Maybe we can look up a word. If you're not sure about what a word means, usually we do that, don't we? Is that the right word? Well, I'll use one simpler I know is correct. We can avoid that. But when you're writing a sentence where you really do need to use the past participle of drink or something, ride, another one, then it's you're walking on that ice. It's either going to break or it's not. You're going to get it correct or not, and people are going to notice. Your boss might notice, right? It might be a real pet peeve of your boss. It might cost you a promotion, right? You might upset all the grammar Nazis by using it wrong. Okay. Here's an example of some things I wrote down. Like I've run. He should have run. The car has run well. I'll tell you what, run is a big one. I hear sports casters talking about this, football game or whatever it is. Comes up a lot, and I hear it misused a lot. They should have ran that play. And these are some smart people, and they get that just dead wrong. Should have ran that play. Yeah, you should have run it, actually. I gave it to him yesterday. I should have given it earlier. I ran yesterday. I should have run last week. I rode with Bill, but I should have ridden with Larry. Ride, rode, ridden. Just knowing those verbs exist. Say them in your head, and then you're not going to misuse them when you got the helping verb, or the right sentence structure. Gave it to Martha. I should have given it to Sue. I ate early. Should have eaten later. I drank some tea, but I should have drunk some milk. That word drunk seems to have a stigma attached to it, because it's it's the same as I was drunk, intoxicated, but no, it's drunk. I should have drunk that. Swam in the pool, should have swum in the ocean. I sang well, but I should have sung better. I sang well, but I should have sung better. I mean, you could take a list of sentences, about 20 or 30 sentences with all these troublesome verbs like that, and just say them to yourself, basically correct any of those that you don't know. I would recommend you look up a list that the troublesome. It's under irregular verb, difficult irregular verbs. You can Google it. In fact, I did that. I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about. Okay, I had 5 or 6 I was going to talk about. There's a couple of those I'm not thinking of, so I hadn't taught this in a while. And I Googled it, irregular verbs, troublesome verbs, and there they were, and everybody knows what they are. Then there's other verbs, like I say, like lie and lay. That's a crazy one. It really is. But you don't lay in the sun on the beach. I'm not going to get a lesson. Maybe we'll do a separate video on that. You lie in the sun, right? But another one like hang. If someone's executed, it's hanged. Uh, you shall be hanged by the neck until dead. You've heard that line. I'll tell you one that people misuse a great deal, that again, it's just cut and dried, is drag. If you drag something around, I dragged something out of the kitchen, and I have dragged it out of the kitchen, whatever. I dragged it out of the woods where I am, and I have dragged it out. I have dragged logs out of the woods before. You don't drug them unless you shoot them with some sort of drug. It's drag all the way through. Drag, dragged, dragged. I dragged yesterday, and I have dragged those things around before, So, and it's on those lists usually, those troublesome verbs. So anyway, that's all I got to say. Bad grammar does make you evil. Now again, everybody hates a grammar Nazi, including me. And that's why I think our focus, yours, mine, everybody's, it should be, if we want to, I don't know, present yourself well, it's the same reason you wear a clean shirt, right? We always want to say we don't care what people think, but why do we comb our hair at all? Why do we put on a clean shirt and not stink or whatever? We care a little bit about what people think. We know that they will notice. It may not affect us what they think, but they will notice. It could if enough people are affected. And people notice when we use English that really hits their ear, because a lot of people do know, and it could be someone who has some influence over your career. And you don't want to be judged as, I don't know, unintelligent, put it that way. And there are certain things like that. It's the low-hanging fruit is what it is, the low-hanging fruit. You take somebody, give me somebody who really has a second grade level of knowledge in terms of the English language or grammar and all this, or someone who's maybe moved from another country, whatever, and they do pretty well with English language. They've learned it pretty well. You can understand what they're talking about and everything. But these verbs, these crazy irregular verbs, really drive them up the wall. If you could correct those things that really stick out like that, that hit the ears wrong and are wrong, it lifts the level of that person's knowledge, apparent knowledge of English, way up 10 notches, just that one thing. Because those verbs are not slang, really, as I see it. They're just dead wrong, and a lot of people know it. And so you just want to get those right if you can, okay? So anyway, that's my little grammar Nazi talk, and it's for your benefit. It's your benefit. Just be glad I have a little knowledge about this sort of thing. Would you rather hear it from some obnoxious, think of the worst English teacher you ever had, the one you hated the most, right? Think of that. If some of you were in my class, you're thinking, me. No, think of the worst teacher you ever had, the worst English teacher you ever had in all those years, and if she or he were sitting here giving you a lecture on grammar, you would just throw up. You wouldn't be watching at all, right? Well, think of me as your friend. I'm your gun guy. I want the best for you. So I'm trying to just address the most obvious issues that you might benefit from, okay? So, shore up the errors in those irregular verbs, and you might sound like a genius. You might be a genius, and you didn't even know it. I'm done. Life is good.